passionate about our kids, are passionate about them doing well, want them to succeed in the classroom, beyond the classroom, in their specific activities, sport, whatever that may be. Those things are already happening. In addition, we have wonderful support staff that are really willing to do their part to support and make sure that we are all doing the best we can for our kids and our community. It's really beautiful. As far as where the board fits in with the academic and that process, what I see is as a checks and balances. So let's take a moment to reflect. Where have we come? What has gone well? Where have we made the most success? Where have we made the most gains? Where are the gaps? Okay, what are we doing? Now, the reality is, what are we doing about that? Currently, how are we trying to keep the pitfalls that we've experienced from the past from happening again? How do we sustain the successes that have gone on while also balancing the trends and the changes that are occurring so that we can cast the vision for the future of, this is where we've been, this is where we wanted to go, this is where we are, and this is how we're going to get there. Yeah, it's going to be strategies, it's going to be procedures, it's going to be policies, it's going to be conversations, it's going to be meetings, but it might sound simple, but yet there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that process and being involved with that. As far as safety, yeah, the district, from what I've seen at the board meetings I've been to, is well aware that the community is concerned about.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez, but we will have to move on.
I'll give you one, man.
All right, I think we talked about many different things up here. I think safety is very important. Safety needs to be number one concern that we need to look into. We talked about Officer Kirkland. He's very stretched. We need to find out ways to make sure each student feels safe, each parent feels safe when their student walks into whatever buildings that we have. But we also are striving forward with the programs that we have. We've got the LENS program, which is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, which is turning into it's project-based learning, which we're going to implement that hopefully here in the near future, where it's going to be kindergartens all the way up through 5th. And that's going to help prepare our kids for what we have in real-world learning, market value asset, where the kids get to experience what it's like to be out in the real world, possibly get college credits for that, or see if there's something else that they want to do in life. So I think we have a plan, we have a strategic plan, we're moving forward. We need to just keep sure as board members that we keep that plan moving forward, and we make tweaks as we go, and make sure that we're communicating to the community and let them know how they can help.
How do you plan to foster an environment that will attract high-quality teachers to our district amidst a national teacher shortage? Mr. Schweitzer, the time is yours. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Ms. Rizika, the time is yours.
Okay, so teacher shortage. Okay. There are a lot of reasons for the teacher shortage, and I think there's a lot of solutions for the teacher shortage. Certainly, money is one of them, but of all the teachers I know that have retired or left early, that wasn't the reason. And I think we talk about safety, and I think teachers need to feel safe in the classroom. There's gotten to a point, and maybe we're not there entirely yet, where teachers feel threatened and they feel like they can't do anything about it. And I know teachers not in this district, but in others that have left for that very reason. And so we need to be able to keep them safe. We need to be able to let them teach. And we need to help them collaborate, because there's a lot of things going on. If you talk project-based learning, teachers need to collaborate. There's no game plan for how you do that. It's not boxes that you check and say first this, then this, then this. So it takes a lot of creativity, it takes a lot of collaboration, it takes a lot of thinking outside, what I would call thinking outside the conference room, to say, how do we really get something out of this? How do we teach the foundational stuff and the fundamentals that the kids absolutely have to have? And then how do we take that and apply it and get things moving forward so they can really see that it matters and understand that it matters?
So compensation is one that the district already is striving to get higher within our peer group for pay for teachers. But I think that the leaders in the district play a big part in that. And when a teacher, you speak to a teacher that's been here for a while, they will tell you that the Kearney community loves their teachers and that they can feel that inside the buildings and outside the buildings. It's one amazing thing about Kearney is that Kearney loves really, really well. So I think to be competitive and to get those amazing teachers that we have and to retain them, our compensation has to be better, but our administrator and our staff does a good job right now of just backing those teachers up, supporting them, giving them the resources that they need in the classroom as well as outside the classroom.
Teacher shortage, right? Okay. I think what we're getting at with the compensation piece here is that the teacher mindset is something we have to understand, and that teachers, the majority of teachers I know, did not enter the profession for the money. At the same time, the way the personalities work, I think that there's an appreciation for an understanding that the district is seeking ways to maximize their salary, to get the most for them and in benefits, and understanding that. Now, I do think we need to continue to do the best we can to fulfill that and to do our part to show and to do that we can, what we can to increase the salaries. I would also say that teachers are so giving. They want everyone to do well. They want to give everything they can. And I think one way we can specifically support teachers is that as new programs are implemented, often we want to go full bore into that. But yet as a teacher, I'm not sure, am I supposed to continue doing everything else I was doing before and now add this on? Or do I take this away? And so I think back to that communication piece, which we've talked about before, just really clearly communicating what is important and what is not important, consistency, alignment, and supporting them in that so they have that freedom and that release mentally to actually focus on what's important, which is the kids.
Yeah, it's a tough question because it's happening all over. There's a shortage all over the any job that you look at, there's a shortage going on. But I said this once and I'll say it again, I feel teachers and first responders are underpaid for what they do. They protect, they educate, they teach our children. I just think we need to be transparent as a board and make sure the community knows what is happening, what possibly needs to happen. And I also think we need to be transparent with our teachers so they also know that we're there for them and we're hearing what they need, we understand what they need, and we need to come up with ways to be competitive with the schools that are around us so we can keep them teachers here. And I think with the programs that we have in place, like I talked about, I think we can make that exciting and make that where teachers want to be here and they want to help educate our kids and bring Kearney up to possibly, the top. Because to me, that's very important. But we need to be very transparent, and like was said, we need to make sure we communicate with everyone involved and make sure everyone knows what's happening.
Like others on the panel have said, compensation, right? And the school board is doing a good job at looking at that already. I believe the plan is by 2025 to be within the top 5 in our area for pay. But then we have to look at the other side of that, right? Pay isn't everything. I mean, it pays the bills, right? But if a teacher is being heard and she thinks that they're being cared for and listened and that their opinion really matters, that is going to go a long way. Disney puts on a conference. They go all around the world putting this conference on, and businesses pay for their employees to go. And their number one thing they say that right off the bat is, we do not pay our employees the highest in our industry, but we recognize them. We have incentives. We do things for our employees. That's what we have to do. We have to stand out as a district and say, hey, we care about our students, we care about our staff, and we care about our teachers. And if we show that we care and that we listen, truly listen, and take what they have to give back, those teachers will feel appreciated. Those staff members will feel appreciated, and they'll want to stay because they know that they're valued here and that their opinion counts.
Divisiveness is becoming more common among school districts across the country. How do you plan to respond to the divisiveness between our school and community? Ms. Schweitzer, the time is yours.
I think that the divisiveness in this community is not nearly as... I think that the school district currently does a very good job of listening to their parents and their staff and their students. I think that the community does a good job of reaching out to the district with their concerns. So I think that the communication is there, and it's much more open now than it was a few years ago, than it was last year. I think every passing day is a day that we all learn to listen to one another and respect the concerns of each other. I think that the district does a good job of getting communication out and also receiving it.
Can you repeat the question?
Divisiveness is becoming more common among school districts across the country. How do you plan to respond to the divisiveness between our school and community?
I will do my part to make sure that everyone is heard. I think when we're able to give people an opportunity to be heard, that we're able to make sure that everyone is represented, I think that eliminates a lot of forms of conflict and issues for everybody. That said, I think it's also important to look at, as we're, the actual logistics of working through this process, that these processes, that no matter the vote or outcome, it's important that all the community is heard, is understood, and is valued. And that when we are able to do that, that no matter in that mindset, no matter big or small, whatever decision we're making, we need to view it as an opportunity to come together as a community and gain a greater understanding of each other so that we can address what conflict is happening and seek to avoid future conflict in the future.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure, I'm a grandparent now, and I am not on the texting tree or the email tree that the school offers, and I think we need to make sure we're reaching everybody that lives in the Kearney whole district that has to deal with anything that has to do with the Kearney school system. I think that's number one. We've got to come up with ways, we've got to figure out ways that possibly we can use the Kearney, the city, their website. We've got to figure out ways to make sure that everyone is being heard, everyone's being communicated to, so we can make sure we can get our message out to reach everyone, like I said, within Kearney and Holt. To me, I think that's very important, because some may feel like they're not heard because they're not on an email list or a texting list, and they're going to say, well, I didn't know what was happening. But we need to make sure, if I get on as a school board member, I'm going to promote and try to come up with ways that we can make sure everyone is being heard. Because everyone's voice, like was said, needs to be heard, and we need to respond back to them and let them know we're hearing their concerns and thoughts, so we can all come together and make this school district be in the top 5. Because that is the plan. I believe Kearney wants that. I believe Holt wants that. And I know this school wants that. So we need to come up with ways to make sure everyone is getting all the information that's coming out through the school.
I believe that we need to open up those communication channels. Like Lynn said, we need to be able to have a single place for people to go to get the information that's easily available, and they can navigate it and not click on something and then get lost in the 500 things that are there. We also need to look at expanding that out to everyone in the community, not just here in Kearney, but also Holt. I know I spoke with several people in Holt, and they feel like they're the stepchildren of the district because they don't get information. And we need to make sure that we're reaching everyone that's within our district so they have the information. That means we reach the parents of kids, we reach the grandparents, we reach the people that may not have kids in the district, but they still want to make sure they're contributing to the district, and they might have something to offer that no one else has even heard of yet. So we need to make that a one-stop shopping, basically, to where we can get that out, get what is going on within our schools, and that people can actually put feedback out. We need to make sure that on the school boards, that on those meetings, that they can come and make sure their voice is heard as well. That's going to make a huge impact on the divisiveness between the community and the school.
To the extent that it exists, as everybody said, communication is the key to solving a lot of that, but communication takes a lot of forms. So it's one thing to be able to go to a website and see what you want to see and see a curriculum or see a syllabus and know what's going on. It's another thing to be in a room full of people and be shouted down by somebody else. So how do you get heard, and how do you hear everybody and not just the loudest? And how do you make sure that all of that gets put into decision-making and strategy and planning and everything else that the board is obligated to do? And the way you do that is you communicate in every possible way. And the best is face-to-face. And that's listening sessions, it's small sessions, it's regular sessions, it's on and on. And there's online, there's surveys, there's a lot of ways to collect data from people where they don't feel threatened and they don't feel like nobody's listening. But then you have to act on it, and you have to tell people what you found out. We did a survey, this is what we found. Here's the data, you can analyze it yourself. We need to just be wide open and share it all. And if you want to participate, great, and if you don't, you don't. And that's your call too. But from our standpoint, we just have to put it out there and listen to the answer.
Market value asset is defined as opportunities that allow students to gain real-world learning knowledge and experiences. What is your opinion regarding MBAs, and how do you plan to promote them in the district? Mr. Vasquez.
Well, as a former teacher of electives and fine arts, seeing that connection between, and now a small business owner, to see the connection between school and businesses and working on partnering in that relationship, I think it's a great idea. I don't know anybody who would disagree with that. I can't think of any reason why not. So what am I going to do? I'm going to continue to foster an openness, an awareness of what those programs are doing and what they're looking like, making sure that we're doing all that we can to make them as real world as possible. Often we hear real world, and yet when we get done, there's a gap there of some sort. So being able to make sure they're promoted and ready to go. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I love this opportunity. For me, what I would do is I would definitely try to reach out to businesses and make sure we can get more business involved, because I think that's where it's at. We need to have community surrounding Liberty, North Kansas City, wherever we can get these kids in the doors where they can possibly learn and get credit towards what they maybe want to do in college, and then also get an experience of how it is to be out in the workforce. I'm a fan of it. I love it. I think we're gonna excel at this, and you're gonna see bigger and better with this program. I wish they had it when I was in school. I wish they had it when both my sons were in school, because I think it's something that can be beneficial to them, and I think it's going to be something that's beneficial for the future kids that are coming up in the school system. So I'm a fan of it. I'm going to promote it all around. I talk about it now, and I will continue to talk about it no matter if elected. It is a great thing that we have going on here at Kearney, and I think it's only going to get better.
From my high school experience, I come from what we used to call COE. And it was a great opportunity for me. It's where you went to school half a day and you went to work for half a day. And that's really what we're talking about, right? I was able to explore opportunities in what I thought I wanted to do. Or I could, at one point I even did a job where I was cleaning laser printer cartridges and stuff to get into that technology. And it was a good example of just getting hands-on into an introductory job in a field that I thought I was interested in. And lo and behold, I am in the technology business now. That's what I do day to day. But I'm going to promote that. I'm going to talk about that. But if there's one thing to have, an old guy in the school promoting it or talking about it, I think we need to have the kids that are doing it now talk to the future students. Bring them in and let them talk to the kids and say, hey, this is what I got out of it. This is what I didn't like. This is what I liked. And this is where it helped me. And this is where it didn't help me. The kids are going to respond to their own. We need to have the kids doing it now. Promote it as well. Bring them into the board meetings. Bring them into the schools. Bring them into the middle schools and say, hey, there is an opportunity here. Take full advantage of what is being offered to you.
So I think in my open, I called it a public-private partnership, and you call it market value asset. and it's the same thing. It's how do you engage the community? How do you engage the businesses? How do you get people involved? Because they're not going to come to you and say, hey, you think you can send somebody over to help with blah, blah, blah? It's not going to happen that way. So you have to reach out, and you have to be able to facilitate bringing them in. I volunteer at Northland Therapeutic Writing Center, and they have a ton of volunteers, and you have to vet them, and you have to set them up and schedule and do all those things and have backups and have training and all of those sorts of things. And we have to be able to take that out to the community and say, this is how we can work together. This is how this is going to work. This is how we can facilitate it. Some of it's online, some of it's in person, but how do we get that going? And what do you need help with? Any event, I mean, even a school event, if you're putting on a concert, why wouldn't you have the graphics people making up posters? Why wouldn't you have the marketing people putting together a dinner and hiring caterers? Why wouldn't you make it into a real event and get all of that kind of experience as you go? So there's just a lot of ways. And I don't know that there's a playbook. I don't know that there's a standardized way to get that done.
Thank you, Ms. Ruzicka.
So Ms. Stacy Holtzclaw does a great job, I think, already of getting the word out into the community. If you've ever been to a chamber meeting for the businesses, she'll walk up, introduce herself, and she'll say, what do you do, and how can I get my students involved? She's in the building, so she's hearing the students want to know what their options are. If a student comes up and says, how do I do this? How is it an option? The district does a really good job of just reaching out into the community. Being a business owner, they send emails and ask questions about how can they get students involved. The Northland CAPT program is great, as well as trade schools. I think that the opportunities that the district gives for these students is incredible, and the more that the students talk about it at home and around the dinner table, the more information the community will bring in. I think that they can continue to do this by having just the real world learning experiences of having students do the graphics for the school board forums and that kind of stuff. I think Ray Weichel with communication does a great job of having them do all of that. I think the district does an incredible job already getting that opportunity out to them.
In what ways would you work to combat the overall misconduct in our school district? Some examples include stealing, vandalism, and drugs. Mr. Coffin, or Mr. Broughton, sorry, the time is yours.
Yeah, I think that we have policy that covers all that, and I think we got to make sure that we are, we're following that policy. Maybe we need to look at ways to change policy if that's what has to be done. But we need to make sure, like I think we stated before, Officer Kirkland is just one man, and we can't stretch him out too far. Like I think was said, that it took him 10 minutes to get from one building to another. So we need to look at other ways that we possibly can get him help. I have sat down with our sheriff, Mr. Aiken, and he has some different ideas and different thoughts of how he could help Kearney. And hopefully that we will possibly sit down with him and listen to him. But I think we need to make sure that Officer Kirkland, he's being helped, if that's what we need to do. But policy, to me, is first and foremost. We have policy on those things. We need to make sure each school is following that policy, and we need to make sure that the outcome to breaking that policy is upholded.
I agree. I think we really need to look at a partnership with our Clay County Sheriffs. They have a lot that they could offer in training and help, and what they could offer as far as, hey, here's some suggestions, here's what we can do. But we have to be open to that, right? We can't say, hey, we need your help, and when they come in and say, well, this is what you need to change, and this is what you need to do, and just say, okay, thank you, there's the door. We have to be open to that. Change is hard, I understand. Yeah, we need to look at policies. We need to make sure that every school is really looking and knowing those policies so that they're being consistent. You know, you can't go from this school and that school where the punishment could be a day here or 2 days suspension there, whatever the case may be. But we really have to make sure we're being consistent with the kids, because just like at home, if you're consistent with your children, they learn better. And if we are open and honest with ourselves, we need to take a look at these serious allegations or whatever's coming through to administration to make sure that we're acting on it, and we're acting on it in a very timely manner, not saying, hey, we'll look at it next month, we'll look at it in 2 months. No, we're going to look at it right now because it's a serious issue. So I think we really need to just make sure that we're holding to the policies, looking at the policies, changing what needs to be changed, and acting on that.
Yeah, I have to go with that too. I think that you know, the rules are on the books, right? We know the rules, we share the rules. If the parents sign off on the rules, they're going to sign off on the enforcement of the rules. And if there's a problem, there's a problem, and that's part of school. You learn that actions have consequences, and you learn that, you know, you don't just get away with it because you're you. And so you have to enforce it, and it has to be consistently enforced, and it has to be regularly enforced, and you have to watch for it. Nobody says that it's okay to be a bully, and yet there's bullies, and nobody says it's okay to do drugs, and yet they do drugs. So you have to enforce it, and you have to watch, you have to pay attention, and you have to hopefully spot some of these things before they turn ugly, and before they get out of hand, and do the enforcement early on. But you have to have the enforcement measures there. You have to have the ability to make them follow the rules, or if for that, they need to know that if they don't follow the rules, this is what's going to happen, and this is what's always going to happen. And it's, again, it's about consistency, and it's about enforcement.
So I agree with all of those things. I think the school board's job is to set policy that can be clear, that the teachers understand, administration understands, the students and the parents understand. the process of it and how it plays out. I think one of the biggest things that our administration needs to know is that they have the support and the backing from the board and from their leaders, that when something happens, that if they follow the policy and the process, that they've got the support from everyone, and that there's the clear line of, you do this, this is gonna happen. And I think, to be honest, it starts at home as well. I think that the parents need to know that if you step over this line, this is how this is gonna be handled, and the school is gonna take action. So I think communication of our policies and our process, we have to do a little bit of a better job of letting the parents be able to, everyone gets the handbook at the beginning of the year, but to be able to read it and for it to flow is important. But I think the job of the board is to make sure that the policy is there for the teachers and the staff and administration.
So I drive on the road and I drive over the speed limit, and if I get a ticket, right, I know that I wasn't supposed to be driving over the speed limit. So discipline is not as simple as telling kids don't do that, right? Like just don't do that. There's a lot more involved to it than that. So my thought is discipline, whatever the concept is for this time, it's discipline. There's importance of collaborating as a district and deciding what is the why of our discipline. What are we trying to figure out? Yes, more than just we don't want kids to misbehave and all those things, but what is the why? And then how do we implement that why effectively? And then how do we communicate that why and that implementation to our parents, families, that partnership piece? And then from that, I feel like we make that an aligned approach so that, again, there's going to be a certain amount of gray, because it just, not every situation is going to fit into a nice cookie cutter piece. We have to recognize that as well. And then consistency. Yeah, consistency is the piece, both within the district and within the building, doing our best. And being able to recognize that this is going to be a work in progress, that even when we get to the end of that process, it may not look exactly like we wanted, but at least we got further than we were before, and can carry on and continue to do that. It's not just a one and done situation.
Kearney High School switched to more of a Latin-based system as opposed to the traditional merit-based system. Do you support that change? Mr. Coffin, the time is yours.
Yeah, I sat in on those meetings when they were discussing that, and yes, I do believe they went the right way with going back to the Latin-based system. It's just, it's more encompassing of everything that the kids do. It's more encompassing of what the kids want to achieve, and it also encompasses everything as a community that we want our kids to achieve, right? It sets a higher standard for them. It sets that bar to where, yes, it's achievable, but they're going to have to work for it. And we offer everything for them. It's right there at their fingertips. They just have to reach out and grab it, and we have support staff here that's going to say, hey, if you reach for it, I'm going to make sure that you can get it. And I'm going to be there for you, and I'm going to make sure that whatever help you need through the way, I'm going to be there to help you, right? The kids, it doesn't matter to them. It really doesn't. They just want to know they can achieve graduation and go on to college to wherever they want, to hit the goals in life that they want to do, in the field they want to hit. So I think it was a good move for the school district to do that. And I totally support it.
So I believe that also it was a good move. I think that goes along with raising that bar and raising those expectations and giving them the challenge. They want to change. They want the challenge. They want to do something different. I had an instructor who would give tests that nobody could pass. And it wasn't because he was being mean, it was because he wanted to see what we didn't know. And I think when you start to measure kids that way, then you find out what you can work on and where they need some help. Maybe they need some tutoring, maybe they need some assistance, but you just got to keep pushing up the bar, and you got to keep, the expectations have to stay very high.
I do think that that move was very good for the district and for the kids. I think that setting the bar high and our standards for the students is important. I think that the options to individualize their goals for them is important, and then to be able to still compete, so to speak, with their peers, to challenge them even more is important as well. I think adding in the options for the real world learning and that is always important, and it was a good move.
I'm a huge proponent of connecting kids with their passions, of giving them an opportunity to reach beyond. Yes, Missouri learning standards are important. Yes, we need to meet the demands of the curriculum. At the same time, we have to recognize that there's more to our students than that. And so finding that balance and celebrating that balance so that we are able to build that partnership with the kids and their families so that they can experience what we have. Like we figured out what we wanted to do, what life was going to look like for us, and along the way we experienced some difficulties and troubles along the way, and I think this gives them an early start at that, so that we don't get all the way through high school, maybe we haven't had a big issue, and now all of a sudden we're out, and I've had a detour, I don't know what to do. So giving kids an opportunity, yes, to experience success, but also opportunities to build resilience, to build that grit, that this is what I want, I made the decision, and this is what's going to take, and I'm going to do it. I think the more of that we can do, the better off our kids and community are going to be.
I also said in those meetings for this, and I do agree this is another thing that we're doing here that we need to do. You're setting that bar high. Each child learns differently. Each student learns differently. I call them kids because they're kids to me. They all learn differently, but the ones that want to be challenged can be challenged, and the ones that may need a little help can get that help. But I think this is an excellent thing that we've installed here at Kearney, along with all the other programs, like Bree said, the programs that we have there that we can make our kids achieve at their pace, and then they can figure out where they fit in this world, and they'll have success. And to me, that's very important.
What policies would you support in regards to school curriculum development programs, and how would you share it with the community and parents? Ms. Rizika, the time is yours.
Curriculum and policy? What, can you please repeat that? There's a few, yeah.
What policies would you support in regards to school curriculum development programs, and how would you share it with the community and parents?
Well, first off, there are requirements for curriculum development. So there are things that you must teach them and that must be offered and should be offered. Beyond that, you start to build your policy around what we've been talking about in terms of ways that students learn and putting those curriculums in place that help them regardless of what they're going to pursue down the road. So there is foundational learning, and then there is how do you apply applied learning with the community work, with the rest of it. So there's different ways to support those curriculums and those policies. I think you also then to communicate that back. Before you communicate it back, I think you get the input from the community, and you get some understanding from the parents. You get input from college recruiters, you get input from a lot of places as to what do you need these kids to know how to do? And that comes from your local businesses, that comes from universities, that comes from a lot of sources. But you have to take all of that and you have to analyze it against their age, their path, their approach, and then you can put together the policies and curriculums to get it done.
So the district just did their strategic planning, and they brought in the community members and some students. Everyone had a different section, so I think that the curriculum part of it, you have requirements that you have to meet the standard test, and then the policy goes along with the administrators and the teachers, that they know what markers they have to meet, right? I think that the district does a good job with sending out surveys to get the input from the staff and the students, as well as the community members, to move forward with that. Each and every year they revisit it. So,
Can you read me this question one more time? I'm having trouble getting my mind wrestled around this one, so I want you to read it, and then we're going to see what happens.
What policies would you support in regards to school curriculum development programs, and how would you share it with the community and parents?
Okay, school development curriculum. Okay, we need to make sure that our teachers, like I've said from the beginning, are safe and supported and encouraged. So we need to make sure that we have a curriculum that supports what they're doing in the classroom, and that's going to help meet our students' needs academically and as much as we can, socially and emotionally beyond that. To that end, we have to make sure that these also are aligning with our graduation requirements and everything else that we have for our district. They're in line with the Missouri Learning Standards. I'm not sure there was a communication question on that, but obviously we want to communicate this with our district. Again, continually, the piece I'm working out here is we want to make sure that our teachers have what they need to be successful with our students, to carry on the great academic success that we've had, so that carries on. And we need to make sure that we're partnering with our community while we're doing that, so that we can let them know what we're doing, while also empowering them to come along with us in the journey as we work together, hand in hand with the community, to educate our kids and make them better citizens and people who want to come back and continue the cycle of success that we've had in perpetuity. That's what I've got.
I think first and foremost, we need to make sure our teachers feel supported. We need to make sure our teachers are being heard. We need to make sure we're meeting their needs for what they need to achieve the plan that we have. We have a strategic plan for the next, I want to say, 5 to 7 years. We need to make sure everyone's on board with that plan, everyone understands that plan. But first of all, the teachers need to feel that they're supported. The teachers need to know whatever they need, we will get to them and make sure we provide their needs so we can get that curriculum to the students. The students will achieve and do well in that curriculum, but then we also, like I stated way back, we need to make sure we're reaching every community member. We need to make sure we're talking to the parents. We need to make sure the community knows what the plan is, so we can make this strategic plan happen, and we can continue this excellent education that we have here at Kearney. But everyone has to feel supported, everyone has to be heard, and we have to reach everyone. That's basically what I feel.
As I stated earlier, change is hard, right? But I really feel, like others have said, when you're talking about policies with curriculum, that's a tough undertaking. That is, and one that, honestly, a lot of people don't want to take. We need to make sure that we're having those meetings with the teachers. They're our front line, right? They are there. They're the ones teaching. They're the ones that are seeing, hey, the kids are getting this pretty easy, or hey, the kids are not getting this. We're having to teach us, yes, to hit these milestones, but they're just not understanding. So we have to make sure we're reaching out to our teachers. We have to make sure that we're saying, hey, how is this going? Right? And that's at not probably a district level, but just each individual building. We need to have the staff there that say, hey, how is this going? I know we implemented this policy, and now you have to teach us. How is that going, and how can we support that change? And we need to make sure that we listen to the teachers. We need to say, hey, we're getting some honest feedback here, because honestly, if we get the feedback and we do nothing about it, we're going to stop getting that honest feedback. And once we get the feedback, communicate back out to the teachers and to the community. Hey, we had this change, we tried it, we kind of tweaked it, now we're going to try this, and we'll keep you informed as we go.
How do you plan to use the input from students, parents, teachers, and administrators in your decision-making process? Ms. Schweitzer, the time is yours.
Say that question again. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
I'm so sorry.
How do you plan to use the input from students, parents, teachers, and administrators in your decision-making process?
So, first, I'm a mom. So the mom in me is a big part of my decision-making. My faith and moral values play a big part in my decision-making. Having a student in the buildings is the boots on the ground, along with friends that are teachers. When they come to you with concerns or with praises of what is going good and what is going bad, it's important to be able to listen to them and then kind of also separate yourself from the busyness of the everyday part, because that's not what the board does. The board works on the policy part of it. So I think to answer the question really is my heart and my children play a big part in my decision making with my friends. I want to make sure that the school is safe, that the teachers are happy and the students are happy, and that they feel heard and loved, and that their day in and out daily is good, that they come home and they say it's been a good day to be a Bulldog.
Can you read me the question?
Of course. How do you plan to use the input from students, parents, teachers, and administrators in your decision-making process?
I feel like I've already addressed this maybe in previous questions. So I think one part of being a board member is to be a listening board, is to actively listen, intentionally listen, purposefully listen, understanding that one of the beauties, many beauties of our community is that we have passionate people. Passionate supporting, and often we can have passionate discourse and everything that goes in between that. So yeah, I envision that the number of those types of conversations that I have, if elected to the board, will increase. At the same time, I'm one of 7. Right, so I'm happy to hear you. I'm happy to hear what you have to say, and I'm happy to admit that I won't have all the answers, but that doesn't mean that I'm not caring or empathetic with what you're experiencing, and at the same time want to work together with you to get you to the root of the situation, or get you to people who have firsthand knowledge and can actually make some difference in the situation, empower you to do that, so that again we have that partnership, the open, honest communication. But beyond that, again, I'm one of 7 on a board, and I'm happy to be listening and empathetic. At the same time, there are boundaries of what I'm able to do and help you with in that context.
Yeah, my faith plays a huge role in my decision making. Morals are very important to me. Quick to listen, slow to speak is something that I really try to do in my life. I really want to listen to concerns and thoughts or ideas, and I'm a processor. You can ask my wife that. I'm a processor. It takes me time to think, and I may go back and talk to other board members, or I may talk to I would probably take it back to administration or board members. It's questions of dealing with the school,
And the person that asked me that question can be sure that I will get back to them with a positive or a negative answer. But I think that's good. I think communication's good. I think if we can keep that pipeline open, within law, if I can talk about a certain thing that is going on, I would definitely do that. But quick to listen and slow to speak. That's kind of my motto. And listening is very important, as you hear the other candidates up here talking about that. We need to listen, but we also need to respect that person. Like I said, I'm a processor, and get back to that person with an answer, positive or negative.
I believe any feedback that we get is good, even if it's bad feedback, right? We can always grow from any feedback that we get. That's if we choose to. You know, being on the board, you're going to hear things that you don't necessarily want to hear, or you're going to hear things from people that, you know, it stings a little. But we have to be able to take that information and discern through it, right? Yeah, faith is big in my life, as well as other candidates have said, and it plays a big part in my decision making. But on the other hand, I have to be able to take that and say, okay, what do we do with this information? Does that mean I take it back to the board and say, hey, this is what I've been told by several people. You know, we need to give them an answer. Most definitely we need to do that. But then we also have to be able to say, you know, that's really something that is not handled at the board level. You need to go to your building, your school administration, and bring up these concerns. And then, if it's not being addressed, then bring it back, and we'll take it to the board and see what's going on. And sometimes that's not a popular answer, but it's just the answer that people need to hear at that time. Because let's face it, we're in the community, and if you're on the board, you're going to get people that come up to you with questions that you have no control over, and you have to be able to say that in a loving way.
So those are all really, really, really good data points from all of those sources are providing a lot of good data points. I'm an analyst, and so the more data, the better. So I would also say that when you're looking at making decisions, you have all of that data and all of that input and all of that feedback. You also have access to research and validated research, and you have access to best practices and procedures and things that have happened in other places for other people in other districts, and how did that all work out. So you're not diving into something cold. And honestly, when it comes to decision making, it's as much data as you can get, but then you make the decision and you move on. You don't agonize. You agonize over it, but once it's made, you go to hardcore execution and you get it done. And that's my decision making, is I will take as much data as I possibly can get. I will evaluate it. I will go for outside research and secondary sources, and then we'll try and make the best decision we can. And I will present that to the others that have a decision, that are involved in those decisions, and we'll go from there. Those are our customers: the students, the staff, the community, the parents. And so
Thank you,
to
Mr.
serve
Zika.
them, we need to.
One controversial topic in our nation is school choice. What are your thoughts on this topic? Mr. Vasquez, the time is yours.
School choice, yeah, it's out there. I'm a proponent of the public schools. That's why I'm here. That's what we do. My concern with school choice, I have many concerns, many of them which being that in an open market model, so many things have to change that I'm not sure that we are prepared for that. Specifically to public school, one of the many things I love about public school is that it gives numerous opportunities for kids to make it, for kids to find that passion, to get connected. My concern is I don't want to be exploited by outside sources and people outside the state. I want us to have control over that, and I want us to I want us to, again, be able to provide kids as many opportunities as we can in the public school system that we have. I would also say that using a business-like model, I think, creates a greater gap between the haves and have-nots. And I also feel like often this legislation is coming from small pockets of the state, and I want us to be really well aware of the beautiful things we have happening in Kearney and be ready to protect them from anyone who wants to take them from us.
I'm a proponent for public schooling, but I also think school choice is okay too. I think if we are not providing parents and the students what they need in our school district, then maybe they should have that choice, that they can go outside the school district. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see that money stay into the school so we can continue to do what we're doing here. But I think we need to make sure that should make us as a school district strive and do everything that we can do to keep those students here and keep those parents wanting to have them students here. To me, I think that's what's important. We need to do the best job possible as board members, as teachers, support staff, administration, anyone that comes in contact with these students to show them that they want to be at Kearney. But I think school choice is okay. If we can't meet their needs, the parents should be able to take their money and apply it to where they feel their child is going to make their needs. But I think here at Kearney, we can do that. We can eliminate parents' thought of pulling their money from Kearney school system. Because I'm all for public schools. My kids went to public schools. I love public schools. But there again, school choice is out there. It's real. It's happening. Our states around us are doing it. So don't be shocked if it doesn't happen here in Missouri. But I think here at Kearney, we need to do the best job possible to keep them families here.
Yeah, school choice is a hot topic, right? I believe if we would foster an awesome environment within our school district, we're not going to have families wanting to leave. We're actually going to have families wanting to move here, like me and my family. We moved here for the schools, like I said earlier. But I think we have to be open and honest with ourselves and look at everything that we're doing as a school district to make sure that we don't have families want to leave and go to another school or another district or whatever they feel, private education, whatever. I mean, everyone has a choice, right? And I don't want to take that choice away from anyone. I never would want to say that, yes, no, you do not have a choice. You have to stay here. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to make sure and foster a culture here in our district that people want to stay. And I think with my other answers, it leads right into that. We need to listen to our teachers, listen to our staff, listen to our students. They have a lot of good ideas, and they have a lot of thoughts and of what's going on, and they're in the day-to-day. And we have to make sure that we're listening to them, and if we do, just like our staff, they're going to want to stay here, and we're going to see Kearney grow to the excellence that the bar we're setting for them.
So I have to say that I am a huge fan of public schools. Been there, done that. Lots of teachers, lots of relatives in the public school system. I also know that kids learn differently. So while I am not in favor of being able to take your $30,000 per child and go wherever you want, I am in favor of charter schools. And I think that specialized curriculums that support kids that learn in different ways, either at the high end, the low end, the in-between, to be able to offer the option. And again, as a board member, you'll do everything, we do everything we can to make sure we're the choice. But sometimes kids need an alternative. And public schools, unfortunately, because they are regulated, and like most regulated industries, change is hard and it takes a long time. And so it's kind of like turning that aircraft carrier. You can't do it all at once. Well, kids can't wait. So if your third grader isn't getting what they need in this third grade, and they won't for another year or two or three, maybe you have to do something different. And I think charter schools fill that role. But again, not really in favor of just taking your money and going wherever you want. And at the end of the day, yeah, you do everything you can so that we're the choice.
So I think that school choice hurts communities. I think that your people come to your community for your schools, and when that option leaves, so does your community, and the playing field isn't leveled, right? I think it will hold school districts accountable to make sure that they continue to do their best for every student, which looks different for every student. But I think that in the end, it'll be the communities in whole that are hurt by that.
All right, so due to time, we're going to go ahead and move on to our final question, which is, our district has used some of the bond funds from Prop B to fix minor things at the junior high, middle school, and Kearney Elementary, but construction plans for a new elementary school have been put on hold. Do you support moving ahead with the construction of a new elementary school or renovating existing schools or other buildings in the district? Mr. Broughton, the time is yours.
Yeah, interesting question, right? Inflation causes a lot of problems. It's happening in the United States that we live in. I think if we can go about fixing schools that we have to make them where we can get more students in them, I'm totally for that. We need to get feedback from the community and see what the community is willing to do. And I know we have a survey that's possibly going to be coming out for the survey. But I think revamping the schools that we have, if we have to go that route, I'm okay with that. I think we should go that route, and maybe we should put this new school on hold because inflation right now is high. It raised the cost, but I want to make sure we get the things done within the school buildings that we have planned with the Prop B money. Make sure we take care of those first, then do the improvements to the schools that we have, and then let's see where we're at that point. But let's make sure we're communicating with the community what we're doing, make sure we're reaching out, like I've always said, to every community member in Kearney and Holt, and let them see what's happening, and then possibly see how they're willing to help us. But I am for improving what we have on this facility in our district right now.
Yeah, I'm in favor of putting the project on hold right now. I believe with our new superintendent, she's doing a great job with communicating out, saying, hey, this was voted on, this was passed, but let's look at the bigger picture here. It was going to cost us X amount of dollars when we sent this to the voters, and now it's going to be ZZZ amount of dollars, right? It's astronomical how much inflation just changed that number. And I think that's a good job for our district to say, hey, thank you for voting this in, but we want to spend your money wisely. We're going to move forward with the projects for renovating our schools and making sure that they're top notch and they're getting the attention that they desperately need. But right now, with the prices of everything, let's put on hold. Let's keep it there, and let's keep looking at it and see if we can revisit that at a later time and just make sure that we're keeping everybody informed. And I think that the administration right now is doing a great job with that. And I think the community is very appreciative of that notice being sent out, that mass communication saying, hey, thank you, but we're being good stewards of the money, and we don't want to just put ourselves in debt to make sure we're fulfilling the vote, but we're going to take this money and make sure that we requisition it properly.
Yeah, I think the pause is the right idea, the right thing to do at the right time. We don't know, even though the population is growing, we don't know how that translates to number of students. If we have room for the students that we know about, either by renovation or by modifications, then that's the short-term answer is let's accommodate the ones we have, let's accommodate the ones we know that are coming. And then let's get some more data and a little more research around what's next. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what's the population look like? Where are the number of students? The number of kids overall are less. The boomers and the babies are gone. They're all grown up, and some of them have kids, but not all of them. So we've got to take a good look at all of those demographics and all of those statistics and get a good sense of what do we need going forward in terms of facilities, and where do you put them, and what's the right way to spend that money. And I think hitting pause on this was the board being good stewards of our tax money.
So I do think that hitting pause was also a good call. Dr. Miller and Mr. Nolan did an incredible job of bringing data back to the board to say things are changing. They've changed in the last 15 months, in the last 18 months. Being good stewards of the community's money is something that the board has done a very good job of. I think the district does an incredible job of being conservative with their finances, and that makes for a very strong district. Using the money for the projects that need to be done is very important, and they're doing what needs to be done first. I think they've done a good job of prioritizing things that need to be on the checklist to get those done. But I think pausing, taking a look, seeing what the community wants, getting the surveys back from everyone was a great move.
In addition to unprecedented inflation, we've had a few superintendents in the last few years. And so it's my understanding that one of the reasons for hiring Dr. Miller was her experience in building school buildings in that process. So it seems a little bit confusing that you get someone like that here that you're looking for to help with this process, and they show up, and the first they say, hey, wait a minute. She says, this may not be the idea. And then we say, well, no, we disagree. I don't think that we can do that, right? I think we have to back the play that we said that we wanted to have. And so I do respect that decision. Often I tell my buddies, buy a house, buy a hobby, right? There's always something to do. So in the context of a school district here, we can say that we're gonna take a step back from this elementary number 5, regroup, figure out the reality, look at some more data, make sure that we really are being stewards of the money, and for the community, being open and honest about that. That can be true, and at the same time, we can have buildings that need to be repaired as well. Those two do not have to exist in opposition. I think that's what we're seeing. We're going to recognize that both of those are happening, and regardless of what it could have, should have, what it should have been different, yeah, there's a lot of emotion entailed for that, and we need some time to process through that, but this is where we are, and it's a great place to be. We're going to make the best of it.
So that concludes all the questions we have tonight. We would like to thank all the audience members, board candidates, and staff members that made this event possible. We hope that the information presented here will allow all voters to make an informed decision on Election Day. We would also like to remind all audience members that Election Day is Tuesday, April 4th, and we encourage each and every one of you to vote. Thank you.